the mind of a con artist. Um, so let's see if I can get my slides working, and it's slow on my end. My name is Christine Cito. I'm an artist who has been doing stuff for CrikeyCon since 2017, and I'm the creative director of TuskCon. I have been involved in that artwork since its inception in 2018. I create accessibility badges for many conferences, especially those in the Brisbane and Gold Coast area. I'm also a published poet and artist, and my husband and I have our own cybersecurity consultancy called Tinker Inc. Now, what you're going to see in my slides today is basically a large amount of artwork, and I'm not going to be specifically talking to most of the slides, but just generally rambling on about the work that I've done, along with how you can build upon your own creative ideas in your own life. So I want to start by saying that I have never created any shirt art for CrikeyCon. I'm often congratulated by how fantastic the CrikeyCon shirt art looks like, and it's not mine. There are some fantastic artworks out there that have been created by some amazing artists. I don't want to steal their valor. But when I say that, when I started at CrikeyCon, in 2017, one of the organizers who knew that I was fairly crafty said to me, "Do you know anybody that can sew?" And of course, I immediately knew what he was asking. It was extremely subtle. I said to him, "Of course I do, it's me." And he's like, "Hey, great. Can I get you to help me out with some drop bears?" And so what I've basically been doing since is altering plush koalas into the classic CrikeyCon drop bears. And most people never get to see these. The plush drop bears are specifically provided as speaker gifts. So I make these as a production line item, just like one after the other. They started with just a little bit of felt, some big angry eyebrows, felt teeth, a little bit of blood spatter. And over the years, this has evolved somewhat. At the same time, I'd started to do quite a lot of intricate shading work to keep me occupied on my way to and from work. And I was doing these amazing drawings on the train. And my friend Lucas, who is also one of the organizers at TuskCon, came to me and asked me if I could draw a plushie idea that he had. And the plushie in question was for Lord Tuskington, who is the mascot for TuskCon. And I submitted the terrible watercolor that you can see on the bottom left there, that I thought was very basic, very ordinary. Instead of trying to get a plushie made for those specifications, he put it up on the banner for the TuskCon Twitter feed. I was mortified. So I drew something nicer, which is the image that I've got here that I've called Chased, because he's on a chase lounge. First done in pencil, and then because I liked it, I did it in acrylics. And suddenly I was just hooked. Now, ideas for these conferences don't come out of thin air. Creativity takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And one of the frequent things that I hear from people within cybersecurity is, "Oh, Christine, you're so creative, I could never do that." And my answer to that is yes, you can. Creativity is a skill that can be nurtured just like any other. And I believe that within cybersecurity, it's a skill that many of us need. Now, I didn't start practicing art until I was in my mid-20s. I had a lot of poetry under my belt, a bit of writing, a lot of being a sole parent, but I hadn't tried drawing or painting. And when I started, I was terrible. And what you see now is not work that came about immediately or out of nothing. It's a skill set that I've built upon for roughly 20 years. So I want to specify that when I say creative, I'm not talking about art. I tend to define creativity as finding novel solutions for problems. Because there are so many ongoing, evolving threats, it's the creative attackers that are coming up with the new lines of attack vectors. And we need to be just as creative to defend against these lines. This means that what many call thinking outside of the box, but I consider to be increasing the size of your box, of your framework. Now, you're all sitting here at a cybersecurity conference learning stuff, which is great. But when you're learning the same kinds of things as you've done before, you're simply deepening the neural pathways you've already laid down rather than taking in novel content. So a few years back, I did a little study on learning. It was a course called Learning How to Learn. And what I took away from it is that broader experiential foundations allow you to process new information more easily. Building those broad foundations gives you a greater number of experiences that you can relate things back to. Everything ties into the foundation of what you know. When you learn, you get linkages from other things that are related to that. And this panel that I've got here is really appropriate to this point. I'm showing Lord Tuskington building upon things that he already knows. And there are a lot of callbacks to other things throughout. He's watching TV, he's understanding various scientific theories, he's looking at ecliptic motion, and he's remembering what happened in the past and making iterative alterations to what he is doing. And that fourth panel is that was just a really fun thing to put together because I was able to pull in so many different references from a lot of different places. So talking about increasing your foundation, it has been shown in neuroplasticity studies that new experiences form more connections neuron to neuron in the brain. And this sounds counterintuitive, but the first thing that you should start with to increase these linkages isn't a book or a YouTube, it's your senses. And the first sense to start one with is one of the ones that we neglect most often, and that is the sense of taste. You can create your, you can increase your creativity by trying new food, which I think is a fantastic thing uh, because it's so easy to do. And it's not just new food that's all. It's also doing things that are not what you're doing day to day. It's going out into your garden and planting things. It's putting your fingers into the dirt, and feeling what the dirt feels like. Going to a park, touching plants, patting animals, doing new things, listening to new music, and all of these things build larger linkages within your neural network. And the more that you do, the broader that network becomes. And it may not be directly feeding into the thing that you're doing, which is like why it seems so out of place. But you may have read marketing about word puzzles or Sudoku or other ideas for brain training and the like. But doing a word puzzle on a regular basis only makes you better at word puzzles. When you experience new things on a regular basis, it's a broad focus that allows you to connect multiple avenues of neural activity to each other. And so, as I've gone through my journey of learning how to produce conference art, I've done my best to experience new things and to stretch myself wherever possible to find new directions in which to learn. So the felt teeth on the original drop bears became a little bit more challenging when somebody suggested that drop bears needed real teeth. And so a new set of problems emerged for which I found new solutions. And then because I'd produced something that was going to require me to one up myself every single year, I started to integrate upcycled materials into everything. And so the drop bears in this year's CrikeyCon had a wonderful cyborg arm, a silver jacket. Unfortunately, the electronics that were supposed to go inside didn't quite work for the timing, but hopefully the 2024 drop bears will have electronic features. And this has led to coming up with, additional new solutions for TUSCON, such as this lovely walrus head, which became our perpetual trophy. Um, and I've broadened my horizons so that there are now plush walruses and pins and the calendar and stickers and teaching people how to do different things. The task that I presented this year at TUSCON was teaching people how to make their own paper from destroying sensitive documents at home. And that's the first thing, is to take in new things. But the second thing that you need to do is give your brain downtime. Creativity requires time to percolate. We feed ourselves with never ending data through our TVs, our computers, our phones, but creativity thrives in silence, and it doesn't happen on a schedule. I do my best creative thinking at 3 a.m. when I've woken up from a strange dream, which is the time when I actually drew this particular image of Lord Tuskington doing some catfishing, because it was in a dream. Now, you may never draw or paint or sculpt or write professionally, but if you feed yourself with new experiences as often as possible, you will have a larger foundation for the well of ideas that creativity springs from. So I would like you to go home and do some, well, you're at home, but do some homework with this particular talk. I want you sometime this week to try something that you've never done before. Eat something you've never tried before. And I want you to try to disconnect from the rest of the world for at least 10 minutes every day. And I leave you now with my favorite Lord Tuskington artwork. Have a creative weekend.